got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands.
What's up, Zippity?
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
Welcome back to the Ministry of Truth. If you missed my show this morning, I highly recommend going back and checking it out. But what I got for you, I got 3 videos plus 1 music video for you. It's okay, Zippity. It's a Monday morning, so it's going to be a little slow. But anyway, I got a little rap music video. It's a rap battle between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Obviously, we know it's not a real rap battle, but it's, much more entertaining. Then I got some interviews. So the debate stage left 2 people off stage, and that would be Mayor Francis Suarez, which I don't really know where he's from. That's why we're going to preach about these candidates a little bit. And then we got Larry Elder. Larry Elder is a Republican from the state of California. He lost to Gavin Newsom in the runoff election they had a couple years ago, or a recall election. But should be some good informational stuff. Maybe they'll make it to the debate stage next time. Maybe they won't. We'll see. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's watch Donald Trump and Joseph R. Biden rap battle.
It's your boy Barry, aka Big O, and I'm the
Where's
host
Big
and the
Mike?
judge of today's rap battle between Trump the Don and my good friend Biden.
Hey Biden, I know it's on that laptop hiding. You can fool your voters, but half the country, they know you're lying. I'll never go to jail, the DA keep on trying. All the billions you supplying to Ukraine, people dying. You got blood on your hands, what your puppet masters do. They're coming after me, they should be coming after you. But we know the whole swamp is evil, and that's the truth. You can go and ask Julian Assange for the proof. You said black people who don't vote for you are not black. You locked up tons in the 80s for some crack. A crisis at your border, and of course you turned your back. What happened to forgiving college loans? Come on, Jack. You said you don't support gays a decade ago. Career politicians will say anything for your vote. At press conferences, you're reading what somebody else wrote. You're controlled by BlackRock and Vanguard like Trudeau. Your wife is not a doctor, but she says she is. Why, Joe? Hey, Joe, who wrote the 94 crime bill? Here's to the most famous president. 3 cheers. Your daughter said you showered with her well into her teen years. You said Obama was the first well-groomed black man. You eulogized Robert Byrd. Please give up the act, man. Messing with me,
people forget about that
big time. Oh, I can't forget 10% to the big guy. Good luck, Joe. Good luck beating that creepy Joe, sleepy Joe. Can't wait to see what you got.
Hey, Trump, my legs and the kids, they would rub the hair, and Corn Pop was a bad dude. This is my wife, and this is my sister.
Wrong way.
Hey, how did I get here? What's going on?
Come on, man.
Ronald Trump. Who am I battling? If you're not black, then you don't vote for me. If you don't vote for me, you're not black. Hey, Pop was a bad dude. Why'd you fight? Come on, man. This is my sister.
Other way around.
Hey, how did I get here?
Well, Joe, that was pretty special. Let us know in the comments down below who you think won the rap battle and who you'd like to see next.
Well, not you, Barry.
If you're not black, then you don't vote.
All right, as I promised, now into the main event. Apparently, I'm not supposed to talk to these because somebody got really upset, but it's okay because it's my channel. And if you really want to watch this, you can find these on the Forbes Breaking News, right? Let's see who we got first. Larry Elder, I'm surprised they don't support him more, but he's a black man from the state of California. who was often referred to as Uncle Tom, House Nigga, all kinds of crazy shit, because he supports Republicans.
Well,
There's
good
no sound.
morning, everyone, and welcome again to the great Iowa State Fair. We are so happy to have you here. What a beautiful morning to kick off the series of interviews with our Republican presidential candidates
and front runner.
There you go, of course. This is our first one, so we're anxious to have this opportunity to visit with the candidates as we lead into the First in the Nation caucus, which of course is on January 15th, and we want each and every one of you to be sure and participate. But I am so happy. This is the first one, Larry, so we're going to get through this together. But I am so happy to be joined by a radio host and a former candidate for California governor, and that is Larry Elder. So, Larry, welcome back
Governor,
to the Iowa State Fair.
Thank you so much for having me back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, I'll give you a couple minutes to just tell hi to everybody, and then we'll jump right into the questions.
Well, hello, everybody. I just want to tell you I need 40,000 individual donations to qualify for that first debate on the 23rd in Milwaukee. I'm a little more than halfway there. You can contribute as little as $1. You can even handle that. $1. LarryElder.com. Even if you want a different candidate, I'll be talking about some issues that the governor and I will be talking about right now that others, in my opinion, are not talking about. So if I can just put those issues front and center, I will feel I've done my job for my party. And more importantly, I will feel I've done my job for my country. That's why I'm doing this.
Larry, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So a lot of Iowans had the opportunity to hear you recently at the Lincoln Day dinner. And at the Lincoln Day dinner, you really talked about a little bit about your family history and the impact that had on you growing up and really what you're doing today. So could you just tell the audience a little bit about the impact that your story had on where you're at today?
Well, the Cliff Notes version is this. My mother was raised on a farm, Huntsville, Alabama. My dad was raised in Athens, Georgia. He was an only child who never knew his biological father. My last name, Elder, is the name of some man who was in his life the longest. His mother had a series of men, each one more irresponsible than the other one. Elder was an alcoholic who was physically abusive to his mother. And when my dad tried to stop the abuse, he would beat him up.
Damn.
My dad comes home at the age of 13, starts quarreling with his mom's then boyfriend. Elder was long gone. Mother sides with the boyfriend and throws my father out of the house, Governor. Never to return. You're talking about a 13-year-old black boy, 8th grade education, Athens, Georgia, Jim Crow South at the beginning of the Great Depression. And my dad said he just picked up trash. He cleaned out barns. He did whatever he could to make a living. Ultimately, he became a Pullman porter for the trains. They were the largest private employer of blacks in those days. And my dad came to this place called California, a city called Los Angeles. And my dad was blown away. You could walk through the front door of a restaurant, sit down and get served, because he always had packages of crackers and tin cans of tuna, because he never knew in the South if he'd be able to get him a meal. So my dad made a mental note, maybe someday I might relocate to California. Pearl Harbor, my dad joined the Marines.
There you go.
He was a Montford Point Marine. They were the first black Marines. Any Marines here? I asked my dad why, and he said, I joined the Marines for 2 reasons. The first reason is they go where the action is. Second reason,
the uniform.
I love the uniforms. So my dad was in charge of cooking for the colored soldiers because, as you know, the military was segregated in those days. And my dad could look at a cake and tell you what's in it. He's that good. War is over. He goes back to Tennessee, Chattanooga, where he met and married my mom to get him a job as a cook. Walks around for a couple of days, and he's told by restaurant owner after restaurant owner, pardon the language, young people, we don't hire niggers. My dad went to an unemployment office. He goes to the lady. She says, you went to the wrong door. Go to that door. He goes out to the hall. Sees colored only. Goes to that door to the very same lady who sent him out. She was just letting him.
Society acts like this is the same shit that's going on today. Oh, systemic racism this, systemic racism that, systemic racism this, diversity, equity, inclusion. We are a big step of where we were in the 50s.
Letting him know what the rules were. He came home, told my mom, this is nonsense. I'm going to L.A. where I was before the war. Get me a job as a cook. Goes out to L.A., walks around for a day and a half, and he's told, I'm sorry, you don't have any references. My dad had references to make ham and eggs. He even offered to work for free for a reference. They wouldn't even do that. Goes to the unemployment office, this time just one door. Lady says, I have nothing. My dad says, what time do you open? She says, 9. What time do you close? She says, 5. My dad said, I'll be sitting in that chair.
What's up, Tyler?
Sat there for a whole day, comes back the next day, sits there until maybe lunchtime. She calls him up. She says, sir, I have something. I don't know whether you're going to want it. My dad said, of course I'm going to want it. What is it? She said, it's a job cleaning toilets. My dad did that for over 10 years at Nabisco brand bread, got him a second full-time job cleaning toilets at another bread company, cooked for a family on the weekend because he wanted my mom to be a stay-at-home mom, which he was until the youngest of us was in middle school. And he went to night school to get his GED. When he finished that, he went to night school to learn how to operate a small restaurant. Age 47, by that time, he saved up enough nickels and dimes from his 2 jobs to start a little cafe near downtown LA, which he ran until his 80s. My dad retired. He owned that property next door, plus the home that's still in our family. Not too shabby for an 8th grade dropout, Athens, Georgia, Jim Crow.
Yeah.
And my dad was, thank you. Thank you. My dad was a lifelong Republican. My mom was a lifelong Democrat. You should have heard the arguments on the kitchen table. But nobody called anybody a fascist. Nobody called anybody a Nazi. Nobody said you only care about the rich, you don't care about the poor. They argued vigorously, enthusiastically, but civilly. And my dad always said this about the Democratic Party. Democrats want to give you something for nothing. When you try and get something for nothing, you almost always end up getting nothing for something. My dad also told my brothers and me the following: hard work wins. You get out of life what you put into it. Larry, you cannot control the outcome, but you are 100% in control of the effort. Before you moan or groan about what somebody did or said to you, go to the nearest mirror, look at it, and ask yourself, what could I have done to change the outcome? And finally, my dad said this: no matter how good you are, how hard you work, sooner or later, bad things are going to happen to you. How you deal with those bad things will show your mother and me if we raised a man.
Wise words.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing. It's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that again. We appreciate that. We know a little bit about work
That's
ethic
the thing
here in
is,
Iowa too. So we
back to the phrase, hard men make easy times. Hard times make hard men. Hard men make easy times. Easy times make easy soft men. Whatever. Now we got to get, you know what I mean. I just lost track of where I was. I've been at this point before. Hard times make hard men. Hard men make soft times. Soft times make soft men. Soft men make hard times. It's the circle of life, ladies and gentlemen. So we should be back on the hard times right now.
I've heard, yes.
Absolutely concur with that, with what he believed. You know, as president, you said you would sign an executive order, and it's called the Blind Side Initiative. Kind of prevents president and vice president's children relations. So talk a little bit about that and why it's so important and how you would do that.
Well, that's one of the many things I intend to do when I become president, but it's to sign an executive order to stop all this graft, all this Hunter Biden stuff, Jared Kushner stuff. This is nonsense. And I'm going to be sitting down with my lawyers to make sure we can do it consistent with the First Amendment. But there's got to be something done about this. Harry Truman said, if you go into politics poor and you come out rich, you're stealing.
Yeah.
Also, I am proposing an amendment to fix spending to a certain percentage of the GDP, with exceptions for war and for natural disaster. And that's because, as you well know, I've been around long enough to know every now and then there's this standoff about the raising the debt ceiling. And you and I both know, Governor, they're going to raise the debt ceiling because nobody wants to be responsible for the consequences about what would happen if we defaulted on our debt. Similarly, nobody wants to shut down government anymore when we have a budget standoff, because a party that's perceived to be at fault will lose a coming election. So nothing gets done. The only way to restrain spending is to force the politicians to reform, and that's by law. The so-called entitlements programs.
You know, how about in Congress, since they all have money, right? They get paid by the bills that get put into law. Imagine how many laws would get passed after that. Lawmakers take fucking many vacations throughout the year. Recesses, I'm sorry. But if we paid them by the legislation that gets passed, imagine how much, like I said, I just said it. Imagine how much legislation will get passed with all the bullshit out of it. Or more bullshit so the politicians
use the word unsustainable to describe them. Barack Obama used the word unsustainable to describe them. Why then does nothing happen? Because the number one objective of most politicians, present company included, of course, is to get elected. Number two is to get reelected. And you don't get elected running to reform major programs, take stuff away from people. The other side will accuse you of not caring about the poor, the sick, the elderly. So the only way to reform this is to force them to do it. The other reason I'm running, Governor, not that you ask, but you know,
going through the questions, we'll just let you go. We don't have.
just happened. God damn it.
A lot of times. So you go.
Thank you. I'm an America First guy,
Yeah.
make America First again guy. And, you know, we have a guy like that who's a front runner. So why then am I running? Because I feel that there are a handful of issues that our side is not talking enough about, if at all. And the number one domestic problem facing this country, by far, is
Drugs.
the epidemic of fatherlessness.
Well, that's
Question number 3, just so you know.
40% of American kids now enter the world
What's up,
with a
Gino?
father in the home.
I knew
married to
it.
the mother.
Someone was going to say
70%
it.
of black kids enter the world, Governor, without a father in the home married to the mother, up from 25% back in 1965. In fact, 25% of white kids now do. And what happened in 65 is Lyndon Johnson, a Democrat, launched the so-called war on poverty. And since then, in my opinion, we've incentivized women to marry the government and incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. And that is not to denigrate the job that single moms and sometimes parents and other extended
I
family
think
members.
Larry's been using that argument. Well, a lot of Republicans do, but I think he's been using that for a long time.
Done to raise these kids, but it makes it a lot harder. And our side does not talk enough about it. When you're raised without a father, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. And no one's talking about it. Democrats don't talk about it because they caused it. Our side does not talk about it because if you're white, you're accused of being systemically racist. And if you're black, you're accused of being, as
Uncle Tom
was the LA Times, the black face of white supremacy.
Oh, there you go, Gino.
The other issue is this lie that America remains systemically racist. It's not just driving nonsense like reparations and race-based preferences and diversity, equity, inclusion. It's getting people killed. It's called the Ferguson effect or the George Floyd effect. Any law enforcement officers here know what I'm talking about. It's the phenomenon of cops pulling back from their proactive policing in city after city in America, so that in the last several years, there are thousands of people who are dead or who have been victimized by violent crime who otherwise would not have suffered, Governor, had the police been doing their normal proactive policing. And the people that are suffering from these so-called excess casualties are by and large the black and brown people that people on the left purport to care about. And then there is this, the only word you can use is tragedy, crisis of urban education K through 12, where just
You're talking my talk here. Here we go.
I know you guys have school choice here, and because of you. Just to pick one city, let me pick 2 cities. Baltimore, 13 public high schools, Governor, were 0.
Well, remember, the government creates the problem and then they show up to fix the problem. It's a cycle.
0% of the kids can do math at grade level. 0. Another half a dozen where only 1% can. That's half of all the public high schools in Baltimore where either 0% or only 1% of the kids can do math at grade level. And guess what? They're all located in the inner city. Chicago, 53 government schools, all located in the inner city. 0% of the kids can do math at grade level. Yet the Democrats oppose school choice, even as the party elites.
But I bet you they can do math when it comes to a metric system. A gram here, a gram there, quarter gram here, an ounce there.
Whether it's Barack Obama or Gavin Newsom, former governor of California, I wish. The governor of California and Joe Biden have their own kids in private schools. It's an absolute tragedy. 85% of black 8th graders nationwide, according to the National Report Card, 85% of black 8th graders, 13-year-old kids, can neither read nor do math at grade level. Half can't even do basic reading, which means a substantial percentage of black kids in America are functionally illiterate, even as we spend more and more money on K through 12. It's not the money.
Yeah. No, it's not the money. It's not the money.
Yeah.
And it elevates all of education. And I think we're just about to prove that. And I think you're seeing educational
Nothing gets
freedom.
better unless there's competition.
Nothing gets better unless there's competition.
Right.
It's also investing in public schools as well, which we've done that
Absolutely.
also. So you talked about a lot of ideas, but again, a lot of people running for office talk about what they want to do, and you're talking about some really tough issues. So on day one with President,
Here we go.
tell me what are the first 100 days? What do you do? How do you implement what you're talking about?
You couldn't manage to say President Elder?
No, I did. No.
Like
as President Elder.
Like a fur ball got.
As President
Okay.
Elder.
Day one, I'm going to pardon Donald Trump.
Okay.
Day one.
Okay.
Oh, okay. He wasn't on the stage.
So that's off the
I
table.
totally forgot he wasn't on the stage, so he probably would have raised his hand with Vivek.
These prosecutions are just outrageous. I mean, honestly.
Yep. Two-tier justice system.
Two-tier
People
justice
are sick
system.
of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I read the 45-page indictment, by the way, And in that indictment, the special counsel, Jack Smith, praises Mike Pence for withstanding the pressure to decertify the election. What he doesn't tell you is just a few weeks earlier, the same Mike Pence was on CNN and said, well, I disagree with Donald Trump. There's nothing that Donald Trump did that makes me feel he did anything illegal.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I would resume construction on the wall. I would reverse the anti-Trump border policies and put back the Trump policies.
You mean the remain of Mexico?
I would, as I mentioned, sign an executive order to stop all this graft from presidents and vice presidents. By the way, another reason to vote
And what's the name of that initiative again?
Blind Side.
There we go. Okay.
Another reason to vote for Larry Elder is my parents, unfortunately, are no longer with me. I have two brothers, unfortunately, no longer with me. I don't have any kids. I have nobody to graft for. So that's reason enough to vote for me. Plus, I wear the best kicks.
Yeah,
come on.
You do. I forgot to check that out when we were
Yes.
coming in. It made a
Yes.
statement at the Lincoln Day dinner.
That's right.
Let me see those shoes.
You've got some pretty snazzy shoes on.
Thank you.
Or not?
So you did take on Governor Newsom when they were, trying to, I think, get him out of office for the extreme COVID regulations that
Right.
he put in place.
Ah,
Apply to
crap.
Californians, but not to him. That French Laundry looked like a pretty nice place. So he wasn't feeling the impact. But you did well for the time that you got in. So talk a little bit how you're taking that experience and really implementing it in your run for president.
Well, Governor, I never thought I'd run for anything. I ran for third grade class president. And yes, I won that one. So I'm batting 500. But people approached me that I respect, and so I decided to do it. I got in with just 8 weeks left. In 8 weeks, I raised $27 million, more than the other 45 rivals on the replacement side combined.
That's not easy to do.
It's not. And I got 3.5 million votes. California has 58 counties. On the replacement side, I carried 57 of 58 counties. The only one I lost was San Francisco. I lost that by 149 votes. By any stretch, it was an extraordinary race. And the issues were, as you pointed out, the way California shut down the state in a more draconian way than anybody else did. Meanwhile, Gavin Newsom was at this restaurant called the French Laundry, which I had never heard of. I thought it was where you took your tux to get it cleaned. He's sitting up there, incurred a $12,000 wine tab. Now, I don't know that much about wine.
Balls.
I love my occasional glass of red wine, but I assure you he was not drinking Mad Dog 2020. And then we have a huge homeless problem, crime problem,
Drug
schools are near the
problem.
bottom. People are leaving California for the very first time. And because of the marriage between the left and the environmentalists that don't like any kind of construction, California has 1 million fewer housing units than it should have. As a result, the price of a home in California is 175% above the national average.
That would
which
explain
is
why.
the primary reason why people leave. There's a magazine called CEO Magazine, and they talk to business people about what's the best state in which to do business, what's the worst. And for the entirety of the magazine, they've been around 15, 20 years, California has been judged to be the worst state in which to do business year after year after year.
Yeah.
The taxes, the regulations, the idiotic laws that they keep on passing. We've got a reparations panel in California. There's also a panel that determines if you are a fast food restaurant owner, there is a panel that determines what your wages of your employees are. I kid
It's
you not.
crazy.
I kid
It's
you
just
not.
No shit.
crazy. It's ridiculous.
Gavin Newsom signed a bill to require every publicly held corporation headquartered in California to have a member of the LGBTQIA plus community on its board of directors. Never mind the 14.
Wow.
There is a bill he signed. If you are a large toy store seller, you have to have a gender neutral aisle so that when your parents come and they want you to buy, I guess, a gender neutral toy, you can have a safe space where you can buy that.
Yeah.
He signed a law that requires every high school graduate to have a course in ethnic studies. I can go on and on. Name the brain dead policy or bill. If you own a gasoline powered car in California, by the year 2035, you want to buy another one, you can't. He's banned gasoline powered leaf blowers, gasoline powered
What's up,
lawn
Pat Mom?
blowers. California used to be headquartered to all the top 10 oil and gas producers in America. Now it's headquartered to none.
Oh, shit.
They treat you as a business person like a villain. They treat villains like victims.
Yeah.
And he's got all these soft on crime DAs so that he's he endorsed an initiative to lower a bunch of categories of crime from violent to non-violent offenses. So if you have engaged in serial arson, you've committed a non-violent offense. Attack on a police officer is a non-violent offense. Rape of an intoxicated victim is a non-violent offense in California. I kid you not.
I know.
Plus the bill that allows you to steal up to $1,000, not just a day, but per store. And if you get caught, they write you a ticket. And because we have no bail, they call it cashless bail.
Cashless
no
bail, yeah.
Illinois just implemented. Bad
There's
news.
zero chance of you
Bad
going to
news.
jail.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we've done just
Shockingly, crime has gone up.
Yeah, just the opposite in the state of Iowa. So, I mean, almost every policy that you just ticked off, we have done just the opposite. It feels like it's a race to the bottom between New York, California, Illinois. Now, Minnesota is getting into the mix, but we are cutting taxes and regulations, and we're empowering parents and giving them school choice. We are empowering the men and women who serve in law enforcement. We're keeping our communities safe. And I'm proud of what our national profile is rising. People are paying attention what's happening in the state of Iowa. We're no longer taxing retirement income. Woo!
Governor,
Who saw the headline last week that said "Move over Florida"? Iowa is the
Shit,
number
I wish
one
the rest of
state
the country
to
would do that.
retire in. Yay!
Governor, I remember telling you what the top marginal state income tax rate was in California.
I've been to California maybe 4 or 5 times. Definitely a place to vacation. And that's about it. I don't know how it's changed since then, but definitely just a vacation place.
Oh,
What's up, Dusty?
Remember, we were having that. Yes.
And the governor said,
What? Why? I know.
13.3%.
Unbelievable. No wonder businesses and parents are fleeing, especially with, this co-parenting your children is nuts. Again, talk about common sense. I've yet to have a parent come up and say, I'd like the government to take charge of my children. So it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. Talk a little bit. We have a budget amendment. We can't spend more than we take in here in the state of Iowa. We can only spend 99% of revenue. And guess what? We sent 82% last year of available revenue. And so that's why next year we're going to come back and we are going to cut your taxes again. So you all be ready. We're going to continue to bring them down while other states are taking them up. But talk a little bit. You're going to do that. But how do we, Brett? I got to get a question in here from one of Iowans. Brett from Davenport wants to know, as president, what steps would you take to lower gas and food?
100% agree. There's no better beaches than the ones in Guam and the Philippines, though. I'm gonna have to fight you on that one.
Prices and basically address Bidenomics.
Well, you've got to reverse this war against oil and gas, obviously.
Yes.
Allow drilling in ANWR, allow drilling on federal property, finish the Keystone Pipeline. Just stop this nonsense of this attack on oil and gas. I'm an all-above guy, including nuclear. We need it all.
Throw bio in.
Throw bio in, absolutely.
Yes.
Ethanol, yes, sir.
We do a lot of renewable fuels here in the state. We're the leader in both ethanol and biodiesel. And why this president doesn't recognize that when he's talking about, protecting the environment and renewable fuels. Instead, he goes right to electric, and that's all he cares about. And
that's all he cares about.
Where do those batteries come from? The elements.
Well, and to manufacture the EV, and to transport the EV requires fossil fuel energy. So all it does is transfer the footprint from here somewhere else. But the footprint is.
She asked about the batteries.
And don't forget about the human rights abuses. You got kids in the Congo digging this stuff with their hands. Nickel. It's toxic.
It's toxic.
And they don't even care about that.
Yeah. So are we ready to have a little bit of fun? So we didn't do the.
Has it been fun so far?
I mean, more fun. I think they've been pretty engaged. Right. I think they like what you're saying. I'm sensing some pretty good feedback here, Larry. So, it's not the quick 6, but it's the fast 3. So Guam
is one of those places I can go, and I could actually stay for free. I have a ton of family still there.
Me one funny campaign moment on the campaign trail, and I actually know one, but we'll see if he talks about that.
Can I give you 2 real quickly?
Yes, you can.
One is what happened with you last year. Torrential rainfall comes down, and we're going to your
camper.
Camper, thank you. And I am just drenched with water. And Lieutenant Governor Gregg over there, he said, "Larry, I'll tell you what, I got a nice sweater. I'll give you my sweater. You can put that on." And I said, I'll send it back.
Campaign sweater?
I'll send it back. Don't worry about it. I'll send it back. Don't worry about it. So I didn't send it back. So I see
generous Iowans.
I see you guys a few months later, and I told my campaign staff, I forgot to send his sweater back. He won't remember. So I said, "Hey, Adam, how are you doing? Where's my sweater?" The second one, we're in Midtown Manhattan.
And we're conservative, right? So, right.
Midtown Manhattan. The guy comes up to me, "Larry Elder, I love you. I love you on Fox. I love your stuff on YouTube. I'm a conservative like you are. Taxes are too high. Regulations are too high. I'm with you. Here are a couple of cards. Come to my establishment. It's on the house." I thought it was a nice restaurant, strip club.
Oh no!
I said I will probably carry Massachusetts now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I tell you, it's great interacting with the citizens, and also, but you do
Absolutely.
really run into some just fun stuff, don't you, when you're out on the trail?
I really do. I'm talking to this elderly couple. They're sitting down, and I asked them how long they've been married. 57 years.
Jesus.
I asked her, what does she do? What does she do? She said, well, I'm retired. I said, I assume that. What did you do? I'm an escrow agent. I said, what does an escrow agent do? She said, well, we make sure the titles for a house are clear before you transfer the house. I said, I know, but mechanically, what do you do? She said, oh, I see. Well, the first thing I do is I get a form. She named the form. Then I check with the capital, name the capital, the form. Then I go over here. I check this. I do. It was a long, elaborate, detailed description of what she did. And her husband said, I didn't know that.
What?
I said, you've been married 57 years. You never asked her? He says, no.
No.
I don't even know who this
Honey, what
person
did
is.
you do today? He goes, no. He said, that's riveting. I said, you guys ought to talk more.
Yeah, probably not all that unusual
Yeah.
sometimes, right? So you said you were talking about Newsom closing down, and they had kids out of school for 2 years, and
Right.
but it's still going to the fancy restaurant.
Right.
So we were early on, because we didn't know what COVID was going to do. We were shut some of the business down, especially our hair salons. And so I was not going to be that governor, Larry, that didn't do what I asked Iowans to do. So I want to tell you how serious I took it. I had my husband, Kevin, color my hair because I was doing a press conference every day, and I'm old, and that gray part just kept getting
Get
bigger
bigger and
and bigger and bigger. And so it looked like a science experiment that was taking place in our bathroom.
Oh,
And on
works for
top of that,
Tulsi.
then I had to say, Kevin, I'm going to have to take a picture of this because nobody will believe that I didn't go to the salon to get that done. So thank you for fighting the fight. Thank you for standing up for what's right and making a difference. So I think we want to make sure that you have 5 minutes to close
Okay.
out. So here's the final
By the way,
question.
Governor, in California, marijuana dispensaries were still open.
Oh.
Strip clubs were still open, but churches
Huh?
not.
I know. It is just insane.
Yeah.
Insanity. I talk a lot about the insanity that we see from Democrat-led states and the Biden administration. So, as I travel the state, Iowans tell me they want a leader or a president that'll stand up for the American people, that'll stand up for the country, that'll stand up for our freedoms. They want somebody that has the moral conviction to do the right thing, even when it's really hard. You've talked a lot about some tough issues, and I think they really want somebody that has the vision and the resolve to start to deliver on day one. I mean, this country is eroding at a fast clip.
It is.
But most importantly, how they end the conversation almost every time is they want someone that can win. So tell us why President Elder can win.
Well, as I mentioned, my mother and father were opposite parties, and nobody called anybody a fascist, a Nazi, a dictator. They were able to speak civilly, and I think I can do that. But again, even if I'm not the nominee, if I can just push the nominee to talk about the epidemic of fatherlessness, the lie that America remains systemically racist, that's dividing the country and getting people killed, the need for school choice, the need for an amendment to fix spending to a certain percentage of the GDP, get rid of these soft on crime George Soros-backed DAs, and do something about the graft and the corruption in government. If I can just push them to talk about that stuff, I have done my job. I've done my duty. That's why I'm doing this.
Thank you. I appreciate you being a part.
You got
These are important conversations.
LarryElder.com, $1.
That wasn't
Now
5
say it
minutes.
again.
LarryElder.com, $1. 40,000 individual donations to qualify for that first debate. And once I get up there, it's game on. Hold my beer.
Well, and that's how we bring those conversations to the forefront. So give it up for
I feel like Larry Elder does drink beer, and I feel like he could fucking drink. Let's see, what did I miss? Biden wants billions more in funding for a new gene. Are you serious? Why am I not surprised? Actually, they just might start back up when they start forcing the American people, if they decide to do so. Which it seems like they're more likely to want to do that than not. So, we'll see. All right, another one I got it for is Mayor Francis Suarez. Like I said, I don't know too much about these guys. They're being exposed to me the very first time. Well, not Larry Elder. I knew a little bit more about Larry Elder. Yeah, I think Larry Elder would have been great on the debate stage. That's why I'm kind of curious. Well, I know why they didn't let him on, because one of the polls they picked, the Rasmussen poll, which I thought was a legit poll, apparently is not when it comes to the debate stage. Probably because it was pro-Trump, if that was the reason why, because Fox News was like, fuck you. All right. Now it's back to Miss Kim Reynolds and Francis Suarez.
righty. Well, welcome, Mayor. This is not you've been to Iowa several times before. You were just at the Lincoln dinner
That's right.
not too long ago. So thank you for participating in that as well. But is this the first time you've been to our state fair?
It is, and I didn't realize that it was just as cold as Miami.
Thanks for bringing the heat. We appreciate it. You should feel right at home, right?
This is amazing. I feel like I'm at Disney World. It's unbelievable. It's great.
Well, listen, thank you for being here. And one of the things I just want to jump right in on because I think it's just incredible.
Wait, so they have another Florida guy running? Does that make no, Tim Scott, South Carolina. But yeah, I didn't even, like I said, Miami. Anybody from Miami know who this is?
You know, Miami is one of the fastest growing cities in America. What's something that you've done as mayor that you would implement as president? So talk about some of the success that you've had there and how you take that to the White House.
Well, first of all, thank you, Governor, for the invitation, and thank you all for being here. Thank you. Yeah. I'll tell you, Iowa's a special place for me because it's the first poll that qualified me to be on the debate stage. So it's near and dear to my heart. And I've always felt from the first minute, before I answer your question.
No, this is your time.
I've always felt from the first minute that Iowans have an incredible IQ and an incredible the due diligence that they're doing, the gravity with which they take this decision, which is frankly the most important decision in the world, right? This is the most important job in the world. And the way they take their role, it's really incredibly inspiring for me as an American, as someone whose parents were kicked out of their country of birth, seeking freedom here in this beautiful country. And so what we've done in Miami is we have stuck to what I call freedom agenda, right? We've kept taxes low, shocking, right? We've actually lowered taxes to their lowest level ever in history. And shocking
You were wrong.
Yeah.
I need to tell you. Yay.
14% growth last year. So when you talk about last year in the United States, we grew 2%. We grew 14% last year, 12% the year before. So double-digit growth. The second thing we did, shocking, we supported our law enforcement, supported the men and women in blue. I mean, something that never used to be controversial, never used to be political, and another shocking correlation. Crime went down. We hired the most officers in our history. We gave them the best technology. And last year, we had the lowest homicide rate since 1964 per capita. This year, we're 37% below that number. To give you some context on that, Chicago, which has led the country in homicides for 11 straight years, and it's a bigger city, so I want to
Detroit
apples and apples.
Beat them.
700 homicides last year. This year, to date, we have 17. Incredible difference. And so we keep people safe. And the last thing that we do is we lean into innovation. We believe, and I believe, and part of my reason for running for president is this fundamental belief that our future, our children's future, is not guaranteed. I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. My only regret today is that they're not here. They're getting ready for school. And I know particularly my son would love it. And I can tell you that I'm, as a parent, very concerned that we are not positioning ourselves to win the generational economic battle that's before us. We're doing everything backwards. We're amassing these massive debts, which we're passing along to our children.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are not confronting China, both as an economic threat and as a national security threat. I mean, they have the audacity to now say they're going to go from a spy base in Cuba to a military training base 90 miles away from our shore. They have 80 to 90%
You
of our
act like China doesn't own a bunch of farms in the U.S. because they're just letting them buy up, farms from Americans that they probably foreclosed on. No big deal. We're not helping China in any way.
of our advanced microchips that they make in Taiwan. If they take Taiwan, it will put us into a depression. Not only will it put us in a depression, you can kiss these things goodbye.
Right.
You can kiss our cars that use our technology, our weapon systems. And of course, unfortunately, they're graduating more PhDs in computer science than we are. They have more 5G than we do. And they're focusing on quantum computing to break our codes and read our emails. Do you want the Chinese reading your emails? I don't think so. I don't want them reading my emails.
I mean, if you got TikTok,
Trying to make, I think, Miami the kind of the center, a hub for technology and innovation, both. And with all of the things that you're putting in place, I can see why that's happening. But
Yeah.
You know what used to be a bunch of places of high tech and innovation? The World's Fairs we had back in the 18 and 1900s.
So Biden's border crisis is affecting all 50 states. We're experiencing it here. Where what the statistics over the last 3 months are just really
Shocking,
concerning, shocking,
What's up, Scammy? How you doing?
unconscionable. But it still is a little bit worse in places like Texas and Arizona and Florida. So we asked Iowans to submit some questions, and Katie from Madison County wanted to know what 3 specific actions you take to control the border.
Well, I was there yesterday, and I saw the difference in intentionality from the last administration to this administration. I literally stood in a junction where the last administration's wall stopped and this administration's wall began. And to give you a sense, one of the walls was about 30 feet high, unclimbable. The other one, my 9-year-old would have had a fun climbing in about 2 seconds. So I think we need to be intentional about protecting our border. We need to, instead of, you want to defund something, let's defund the 87,000 IRS agents. Why don't we defund that? And why don't we use that for Border Patrol agents? And why don't we use that for technology to make sure that our border is safe? And then the last thing is,
they really
didn't
need to. I don't know. Did I miss it, or did they not bring up Ukraine with Larry Elder? Because I don't think they did.
Designate the cartels a terrorist organization. They are flooding our streets with fentanyl. 80 to 90,000 Americans die every year. That is the equivalent of a 747 crashing every single day. Think about the national tragedy that was the submersibles that collapsed. Think about if a 747 were crashing every day. And that's not even to talk about the human trafficking crisis, which has now become a bigger revenue generator for the cartels than drugs. It's awful. I don't know how many of you have seen Sound of Freedom, but the executive producer, I don't know how many of you guys seen Sound of Freedom? Yeah? So it's executive produced in part by someone who lives in Miami, and he was telling me the story of what they do with kids. And as a father, it's just shocking. And we need to have a strong president that projects American strength. We have a president right now that is projecting weakness, and that is emboldening our enemies across the world.
I don't know. The CNN and the Democrats are telling me Biden is doing, God damn it. Biden is doing great in the world. We're respected on the world stage. We are no longer shunned like we were with Donald Trump. Wait, that's
more aggressive.
That's not how it is.
Aggression, and it's creating problems for us.
Amen. We talked about it a little bit, but 9 of the 10 largest cities are ran by Democratic mayors, and we've talked about how they're increasing taxes, and you're the only one that's led by a Republican, but increasing taxes, crime, just spending. Another issue that we see that's just unconscionable is the homelessness in a lot of the larger cities and the impact of that. So how have you addressed that as the mayor of Miami?
So I'm going to talk about both of them separately. I think the first one's important because when you get kicked out of a communist country, part of what they do in communist countries is they take away everyone's guns. Okay, and when you look at our country, the Democrats will tell you that that gun violence is a scourge in America, and that's true at some level, right? But if you drill down on this issue, you'll see that America has the 7th most homicides per capita in gun violence, right? That's shocking. But then if you take out the top 5 cities, which are all run by Democrats, which all have the strictest gun laws, okay, we go from number 7 almost to number 100. So we're at the 50%.
I think I've heard that before.
We're like half
that stat
of all the approximate 200 countries in the world, right? So it's a totally different narrative when you take that out. So I think we need to be fair about that issue. When you talk about homelessness,
and they have some of the strictest gun laws in the country.
That's what I'm saying.
It's ridiculous.
That's my point. My point is, you take out the top 5 cities, you go from 7th to 190 something. Secondly, and so I think we just need to be clear on these issues. Sometimes, just people are not being honest, intellectually honest about some of this stuff. On homelessness, we did something called a homeless trust. We created a bed tax for tourists. Our residents don't pay it. Tourists pay it. It's 1%. And we created about $50 million in annual revenue. And we created a network.
So does that mean for hotels? Bed tax, right? That's just another way. Hotel fucking price has been raising more and more every year. So why not add another 1%, right?
Work, because we're compassionate, and there's this sense that if you're from a Republican city, you don't care about people, or the what I call the least, the last, and the lost. And I think that's absolutely false. I'm Christian, and I believe that we are defined by how we treat the least of our brothers and sisters. And so we gave them mental health counseling, drug treatment, but vocational training, very important. I created a construction management program so that they can learn construction skills and go right into the labor force. We did a culinary program. We're a big, obviously, as you know, we're a big tourism city. And so we have a tremendous hospitality industry, which is a beautiful industry because it's an industry where you can start at the bottom, make it all the way to the top. She's nodding her head. You know what I'm talking about. My wife is in hospitality. That's why I'm so polite. Okay. And, it's beautiful to see someone graduate as a chef that was homeless just a few weeks ago, go right into a kitchen, which is a sorely needed a position to fill in our city. And they're making a good amount of money right away. So we're teaching people how to fish. We're not giving them fish. That's what you do in socialist countries. That's why if you go to Cuba, and I've never been to Cuba. My grandfather was arrested by Castro. His brother died in a Cuban jail, seeking freedom. If you go to Cuba, you'll see that it's a snapshot of what it was in the 1960s. It's like a time capsule, right? So we in this country believe in freedom. We believe in economic freedom. We believe in freedom of speech, to not be censored. We believe in the freedom to protect ourselves, right? To bear arms. And these are traditional American values that we have to fight for. But I think why I'm running for president is because I can present something different to the American people as a Republican, right? I believe I can get Hispanics, which are critical, by the way, regardless of who the candidate is, whoever you choose, the Hispanic vote's going to be critical because 20% of Hispanics are undecided. And that's 60 million Americans, 60 million. And our last presidential elections were decided by very, very small margins, less than 100,000 votes, right? So critical demographic. People in cities,
couple million votes.
When I was first elected mayor, we had lost Dade County the year before, which is about 2.8 million people. We lost it to the former president lost it to Hillary Clinton by 30 points in 2016. Last year in the midterms, after I got reelected by 80%, we won it by 10 points, a 40-point swing. We have to do that across urban America. There's no reason why people in cities, particularly in crime-ridden cities and homeless-ridden cities, should be voting Democrat. They're not delivering. They're not delivering. And then lastly,
neither are Republicans, to be fair.
Unbelievable to me that a Democrat won young voters, right? I know they're giving away education, like free debt, no debt. It's like fat, free fat, But I mean, come on, we have such a prosperity platform to create, an innovation economy. Even in agriculture, you're seeing so much innovation, right? I mean, it's such a plus for yields, carbon, whatever the case may be. Cleaner biofuels, etc. It's really beautiful to watch as an American to see this innovation creating cleaner and cheaper fuels to power our country.
Well, so that was one of my questions. How do we ensure that, our young people really do recognize the threat of communism and the value of democracy? And we were talking about it upstairs. How do we reach out to them? Do you get in front of them? They see a successful Republican young mayor who is experienced. His father was exiled from Cuba. But do we do a better job of telling that story? Do we get in? What do we do? How do we fix this?
I do think the leader matters because the one thing we control is what we talk about. I control what I spend my time on. And this is something that is obviously very near and dear to my heart because my family suffered greatly as a result. My dad came at 12. My mother came at 7. My dad got a full scholarship to high school, presidential scholarship to college, 2 graduate degrees from an Ivy League school, has written 9 books and speaks 5 languages. A
Jesus
beautiful
Christ.
American story, right? Didn't ask for anything, has only gratitude in his heart for this country. And I think we have to disabuse the lie of communism. And if we don't do that, I'm telling you, it's the easiest sell in politics. It's so easy to say, hey, why don't we just take from people who have more and give it to these people? It never works. It's never worked, and it's never going to work. And I think having someone that's been intimately impacted by it gives you a tremendous, and someone that happens to be young and has built an innovation economy. We're number 1 in the nation in tech job growth. Think about that, Miami. And by the way, you know, people, sometimes I talk to people, say, well, it's Miami, you know. I said, no, Miami in the 1980s was the murder capital of America. You guys remember Miami Vice, right?
Scarface.
Now it's Miami Nice.
Hey, Iowa nice, Miami
There you
nice.
go.
It all works.
It
We know a
works.
little bit about that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, we were the 5th poorest country in America in 2000. Now we're 115. We've reduced poverty by 50%. So, I mean, these are things that's my record. And I think it's important to have a good record. It is important to have a good personality when you run for president, because you need to have someone that can build relationships, that can build trust. Our relationships around the world are fractured, and we're seeing how interconnected we are when you think about the production of microchips in Taiwan affecting us here. The fact that the Chinese are spying on us through balloons or buying our properties, you know, these people have absolutely no shame. It's unbelievable.
So we also
Wait,
asked
China's buying
Iowans
our
to weigh in
properties?
with questions. And so, you know, here we got gas prices rising again. Your inflation still a problem. Majority of Iowans, 51%, you know, are pessimistic about the economy. They still think it's in a downturn. It's about to get worse. So Brett from Davenport wants to know, as president, what steps would you take how do you take what you've done in Miami and take it again to DC to lower gas and food prices, but really to deal with Bidenomics?
Yeah, you guys aren't convinced about Bidenomics yet?
We're living it, right? Every single day. They try to tell us we're not, but we are.
Well, I define Bidenomics as the poor get poorer,
Yeah.
right? You know, Democrats are supposed to be for the poor, but I don't understand a policy where inflation goes up, so your purchasing power goes down, your dollar is actually worth less money. And then if you want to borrow money, it gets more expensive. It actually goes up. So I don't understand how that benefits the poor. Whatever, you know, economist that he's using, I certainly would fire. And whoever he's using for branding, I would fire too, because
Yo, some of these economists are Nobel Prize winning economists. Okay, guy. Joe Biden's so proud of those.
Bidenomics, Latinx, they're as unique as San Antonio tacos. Whatever the branding they're using, I would fire that branding person. That person's got to go. But I would do 2 things right away. The first is we need to balance our budget. We absolutely need to balance our budget. We cannot live as a U.S. government any different from how its people live. And I'll tell you, when I first got elected, we had a $115 million deficit on a $600 million budget. That is 20% expenses over income. We cut it in 1 year, and we balanced it in 1 year. Was it easy?
No.
Absolutely not. Was it painful? Absolutely. I had employees that didn't shake my hand for 2 years. It was tough. But now that they see the double-digit growth, now that we have the highest reserves in history, now that in the midst of the federal government being downgraded in its bond rating, we were upgraded to the highest rating ever by S&P. Now our employees see, oh, wait a second, this guy was onto something. He understands the way the economy works. And I think it's important that as a mayor, this is very unique to my candidacy. I have public sector experience, but I also have private sector experience. If you look at the field, you're going to see people that either have a lot of public sector experience or have a lot of private sector experience. And I think the public sector people that only have public sector experience have a tendency to want to just use government to do everything, impose their ideology. The private sector people have ideas that maybe are kind of a little outlandish, right? And so they're not really based that much in reality. A person who has public sector experience and private sector experience understands how to push the envelope, right? Because you want to have good ideas. You know, you want to have ideas that are provocative at some level, but then knows how to execute them, how to implement them, how to create the sort of
What's up, Kelly?
the consensus that's necessary. And that's why getting elected by 85% reelected by 80% shows that I can unify this country in a way that is desperately needed with the division that we have, which, by the way, only favors one person, our enemies. They're the only ones that love this division. I always say this, the kryptonite of democracy is division, and we're giving it to them.
Yep, could not agree more. You know, COVID gave parents a front row seat into what was happening in our classrooms. And
Thanks.
I'm proud to say in Iowa, we really have emboldened parents. We've passed one of the boldest universal school choice programs in the country. Thanks for them.
Yeah, public sector doesn't like change because it's not profitable. If it ain't broke, don't fix it type deal. No, they break it and they keep fixing it. It's just the way any government works. I would really appreciate, guys, ladies, candidates, governors, would you stop using the word COVID? I don't want to lose my channel. Okay. Me and this channel and YouTube and COVID? Just kidding. Fuck you, YouTube.
Moms and the grandmas out there and grandpas just really leaning in and expecting more. And I think that's part of the problem, that our kids really don't understand the history of this country and the values that we bring to the table. So
it's funny. You keep hearing these candidates saying they don't know the history of this country. Every time I hear someone say, you don't know the history of this country, I want to look at them and go, well, I do look at them and go, do you? Do you actually know about the history of this country, or do you know what they teach you in school? You know, how they erase history, like they're changing the names of all of our military installations in the South because they don't want them to be named after Confederate generals. They want you to forget the Civil War existed.
So just
Happened.
as president, how do you address educational freedom and the movement that we're seeing take place across this country?
It's such a no-brainer. You know, I created, it's actually starting now in August. I don't know, Sol, if you know the exact date that the Miami Tech Charter School is starting. August 21st, we begin our first city-based tech charter school. And so students in Miami will be able to go to school for free at that school of their choice, and they're going to be able to graduate. We're doing it in conjunction with our community college, which is the largest community college in the country. So they're going to graduate high school for free with an associate's degree in a tech field, which is, of course, the growing sector of our economy. Our economy is expected or projected to grow over 15% of the GDP being digital jobs. So we have to prepare
then again,
youth for those jobs.
I know when my daughter graduates high school, she'll be certified as a medical assistant for free, straight out of high school.
Jobs. We're number one in wage growth.
And then obviously she's got scholarships to be a radiologist.
Growth in the country. And so we believe in educational disruption. I can tell you that the other thing we did was we set up a bank account that I funded for every kindergartner in my city to teach them financial literacy, teach them how to save money for them and their parents. We brought them through the program. And then we focused on 2 scholarships for universities, for Pell Grant recipients. And I went out to the private sector. You'll appreciate this, Governor, because one of the things that we do is we run what I call the corporation, which is the government. But we're also conveners. We're ideators. We create ideas. We convene people. We create initiatives that are oftentimes funded by the private sector.
Right.
So I went out to the private sector and I got 2 scholarships fully funded by the private sector, a little bit of government funding, like 1/11 of the total. And one of them was for Pell Grant recipient kids in my city, the poorest kids in the city that are eligible for Pell Grants. If they want to get a STEM degree, they go to college for free. Not debt forgiveness. They earned it. They go to college for free. And the same for the first in family. If they're the first in their family to go to college and they have a Pell Grant recipient, they go to college for free. We raise the money in the private sector to do that.
Oh, wow.
Excellent. Good job. Honestly. Okay. So we're going to do the fast 3, and then we're going to give you the final question, and then we're going to let you get down there and interact with some of the Iowans. But okay, give me one funny campaign moment on the campaign trail.
I don't know if it's funny or, sort of shocking. I didn't realize what an advantage it was not to have a private plane.
Yes.
I can tell you, I was at an event and somebody spoke before me and I saw them leave, and I'm not going to say what candidate it was, with this nice bus with their picture on it. And they left the event and I realized that they were going to be home that night. I had to sleep here and I didn't get home until 10 p.m. the following day. So I think it's, it's just interesting how this process plays out and the things you learn in the process. of how to be efficient. So
along the way, right?
Along the way.
Right. Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't know how long you've been at the fair, but if you've had any food, what's been your favorite fair food, or what are you looking forward to having?
I am looking forward to having the corn dog. I'm sorry.
Woo!
I know.
Nope. It's a favorite. You can't hardly
It's-
leave without having one.
It is, and I'm a fan, and I don't know. It's just it is what it is.
I know. I told him.
I'll work out later tonight.
There we go, and you're gonna get a lot of exercise. Believe
For
me.
sure.
Okay. What's your favorite walkout song?
Oh, my part of town.
Okay.
Yes, it's a good one.
Alrighty. We might
Not
get
you.
Either
there.
that
Fuck
or
this.
Where the Streets Have No Name from U2.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
Where
got
the
a
Streets
couple
Have No
there.
Name. I think that was better.
Okay, so final question. As I travel the state, Iowans tell me they're looking for a leader that will stand up for the American people. They'll stand up for this country and really our freedom, who have the moral conviction to do the right thing, like when it's hard, when it's not easy, that has a vision and resolve to deliver starting
Laura.
day one. But most
up,
importantly, they say we gotta have somebody that can win. We need to put a Republican in the White House in 2024. So can you tell those of us that have joined us today why you're that person?
Look, I have absolutely no doubt that I would be an impossible candidate for the Democrats to beat, because I attack 3 core constituencies that if they were to lose, they would lose the election by a landslide. I mean, it would be like an incredible, electoral college victory. If we could win Hispanics, if we could win urban voters, which I've done already in my community, and young voters, it's game over. There isn't a place in the United States where Democrats can win. I've already done that and proven that I have a track record of connecting with those voters. And I think also we've got to think about where the country's going. And when you think about that and you think about your children, you've got to think, who is the best person to lead us into that future? Who understands that future? Who can build an economy and build an ecosystem and pivot our country to make sure that we take advantage of that tsunami of opportunity that's before us? If we don't do it, I'm telling you, we're going to continue to get further and further behind. If we keep spending fictitious money, I promise you, we will bankrupt this country. All we've done is postpone the inevitable. We postponed the debt ceiling debate until after the election. How convenient. How convenient. And so the next president, by the way, which is exactly what happened to me when I became mayor. I became mayor, and like I said, we had cut $100 million from our budget. We got sued 12 out of 13 lawsuits we won. We lost the 13th lawsuit, and we had that liability that was $100 million became $700 million. And I went to my employees and I said, I didn't lie to you 8 years ago when I told you we weren't going to raise taxes and we had to cut expenses. I'm not going to lie to you now. If you bankrupt the city now, when we've just grown 10%, it's over for you. And we settled it at 18 cents on the dollar over time. And we saved the city, and now we have the best financial position. So you need someone who can negotiate. You need someone
Miami
who
also has
the
a lot of
personality.
tourism.
You need someone that has the right vision and a track record of success, and I embody all those qualities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Give him a big round of applause for Mayor Suarez.
Yeah, whenever
Thank you.
you see them, they talking about like, hey, our city does this and that. I made the point, but I forgot what it was. I really did forget what it was. God damn it. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I will not keep you any longer, because if you are watching this live, Colorado Pet Patrol also has a live video on Rumble. So I'm not telling y'all how to think. I'm just telling you how to think. Now, I have 2 more candidates left that I have not put on a town hall or debate stage recently. So, well, actually, we did do Donald Trump. So I'm just missing one. And I'm trying to find something over the past month that he said something other than in Maui. And it's not very hard. It's not very easy. Well, that being said, I'll see y'all next time. I'm not telling you how to think, just telling y'all to think.